the WDT needle tool to level it off, but also went right down to the bottom to steer it up. And working my way back to the top, relatively level. That way I don't need a leveler, hopefully. And then give it a little tap, which I usually do with 2 hands, but so now I tapped it. This is only 16 grams in a 18 gram stock basket. So this thing is pretty heavy. Ikape. So I haven't tried this yet. This is my first time. It seems to have a spring mechanism, but then it also has like a pressure limit. I think I've seen like the Bravo Tamper works similarly. So this is like an easy spring, and then the actual thing, like I can't do it with one hand, but the actual piston has like a pressure limit where it seems to give way and it will also compress. So it's kind of like a dual mechanism. It's not just like most weight calibrated tampers where there's a spring that just applies a certain amount of pressure. I think this might work better for being consistent, but I think with any of these, it also depends on how deep your coffee bed is, except for maybe the Force Tamper, which applies, it goes down as deep as it needs to, and then it applies like a force impact kind of thing. So that's a little different. Or something like a puck press. That should be the same, I think, as the Force. Or I think if you need precise weight calibration, then something like a puck press or the Force is what you need. But I'm not sure how actually important, as long as it's consistent. And this should get you, or most weight calibrated, or even non-weight calibrated ones that are manual. Like I like the decent one, and that's totally manual. Like however much pressure you put on there is how much you get, and you could be relatively consistent with that. I don't think a couple pounds of force is really going to change much. It does have an effect, but it's not really significant unless you're doing, one tamp super weak and another tamp super heavy. So I kind of I've never used a ripple base, so I'm kind of curious to see how that turns out and whether it has any effect. The only other thing is, I use a puck screen, so is it going to have any effect? Maybe I should use it without the puck screen. So I use this puck screen, which has a coarser mesh on one side and a finer mesh on the other side. So I think that kind of fills up the channels and then flows through. I'll usually do it this way, so the finer side is on this side, on the bottom, touching the coffee. That way, I think less coffee will get stuck in the puck screen, and it also should help with water distribution, as long as it doesn't go around the sides, which is a possibility. It probably does. But I think the puck screens do help. Maybe with this shot, I'll try it without the puck screen, just to see if how it works with the ripple base. So, yeah. You put it in, and it kind of falls under its own weight and kind of compresses it. I don't think I'm supposed to spin it or anything, just push it down. So let's do that. Yeah, it kind of has a good resistance. Takes a little effort to push, but the mechanism is smooth. And we got a little bit of a pattern. This is a ridged basket, so I see there's a little coffee on the ridge. Wonder if the Force Tamper, the Force Tamper I think does do better. But what happens with the Force Tamper, I think it cleans off the ledge because, I'll show you. So, a little bit of static under there. So, it ends up getting knocked into here. So this is easy to clean off, at least, easy to open. I just haven't cleaned it off in a couple days, so there's a lot of coffee in there. The thing I like about this, actually, let's see if there's any retention. Not too bad. It looks pretty clean. So one thing I was thinking with the grooves is that it's going to fill up on the grooves. The other thing I noticed with similar devices is, usually there's a ledge here where coffee will get stuck in the groove, but this is just one big fat piston, and I like that because you can go all the way down and there's nowhere for the coffee to really hide. and stick, so maybe in between that crevice, but so far so good. Yeah, seems pretty clean. So I'm gonna pull a shot, see how this goes. Yeah, you can see the pattern. It's not like super deep grooves, so I don't know if it's gonna make too much of a difference, but it looks a little neat. So I did actually use the puck screen on top, and kind of forgot it in the group for a bit, and yeah, this is how it looks. Still retained its swirl a little, so that's cool. Yeah, it flowed. I mean, my grind size was a little too fine, so it flowed a little slow, but it flowed like beautifully. And the shot tastes good. I should mention, I did get this for free. Well, I got reimbursed basically for the review. They don't have any control over what I say about it. They wanted a review. And sent me the product, said they'd reimburse me, which they did. Almost, a few days later. I was gonna say almost immediately, but no, it was like a couple days later. Yeah, they reimbursed me in full, which was nice. With the conversion fees and everything, it was more than what they thought originally, but they sent me the rest. So yeah, it has some tough competition. I mean, on my table I have some more expensive Tampers, but this one is a little pricey. It's kind of neat with the, I don't know how useful that is, but it's neat. You can kind of see how measurements of how deep it goes. All right, we got a different coffee. No clue if it's dialed in or not. Again, we got some tough competition for this Ikape. These Tampers are, this one's about 300 new. The decent is maybe about 230 new. The Ikape one isn't cheap either. I mean, there's similar ones that are cheaper, but I don't think they have as nice of a design or mechanism. So it is pretty nice. It's heavy, which I don't know if I love. I mean, it has a little bit of a grip thing, which is good. I'm gonna switch hands. I'm gonna see how hard I need to tamp with this thing. And then what I'll do, since the decent tamper is the only one that really gives you feedback of like how much the coffee is being compressed, I'm going to try that and see if it compresses any further after using this guy. Alright, so filming with my left hand. I tried using my real camera. I do photography, but yeah, I don't have a really great camera for video. So that turned out to be a disaster. The one time I tried that, it was just a pain in the butt. Alright, so yeah, it requires a little effort to push down. So and yeah, not bad. I mean, yeah. So cleanliness, I like it. There's not like, this amount of crumbs is not much. Oops, I was gonna use the Force. So the thing some people like or don't like about the Force Tampers, it actually is really light. So despite it being heavy, it's despite it being expensive, it is pretty light. This one's it's a little heavier. 382, about 383. That's the decent version 3 tamper. So a little lighter for the Force Tamper. And this thing, that's over a pound for sure. 670 grams. So pretty heavy. So it's a little more awkward to handle, but I'm just not used to it. So let's see, with the decent tamper, so we've tamped it. It has a nice, yeah, we got a little stuck in the groove. I should try it again with the, I'll try it again next time with my other basket. I have a Pullman basket that doesn't have a ridge, and yeah, it should. So yeah, it doesn't feel like it needs any more compression. So whatever weight it's calibrated, is sufficient, and my extra tamping didn't really do anything. Kind of left a impression on there. The spots, it's from these things. That's one thing I don't like about those silicone tamp stands that I got. Leaves a little mark. Anyway, I'm gonna try this. Last time I did use the puck screen. I think I said that. And yeah, turned out good. I'm gonna try this coffee, and hopefully also good. I don't think I mentioned the actual price I paid or would have paid for the Ikape. Yeah, so the price, I believe, is about $93 after taxes, duties, shipping, all that. But I think originally it was like $50 US. Yeah, so for Canadians, this is all Canadian dollars, by the way. For Canadians, it's not the cheapest option, but you know, I haven't explored whether there's other options that have the same mechanism, where you can see, yeah, so there's like, this is the actual tamping force, so it's, and then this kind of just pre-tamps like the weight. Here, let me get a basket. So when you first put it down, the weight of the tamper kind of pushes down a little bit, and then once it hits something, that's when you're actually applying the like the second thing kind of actuates. So like now it's hard to push down, but here it kind of sinks down easy, and then if there was coffee that I was hitting, then it would be, you'd feel it. So it kind of does give you some feedback. Like, let's say I underfilled this, like, let's say this was a 22 gram basket and I put in 16 grams for some reason, and it wasn't deep enough to hit the coffee, then in this case I'd feel it, because it feels like I'm not doing anything. It's super light. Where when I was actually tamping, or if I'm tamping on the counter, it's kind of, you know, it takes some effort to push down. So I guess that's good in a way. It gives you some feedback in that regard if it's not deep enough. So far, it seems to do a good job. I don't think there's a way of calibrating it for like different weights. I'm gonna have to talk to the manufacturer about that. But the default seems to work fine. Basically, for tamping, you just want to make sure there's enough force to compress the coffee, remove any air pockets that are in there. Any extra weight you're applying is not really going to do much, as long as you're applying enough weight to, you know, compress it. And you can usually feel that with you know, a regular tamper or a tamper like Decent, which doesn't have the weight calibration. Yeah, so I don't think you need a precise weight calibration, so I don't mind if you can't adjust it, as long as it's consistent and, you know, it has enough force to compress it, which in my test so far, it seems to be doing a good job, because I just felt it, you know, you can't really compress it more using this one after. I did the same test with the Force Tamper, and it also passed, of course. So yeah, I like it. Because it's so heavy, and because I have the other ones, I don't think it's gonna be my main choice. This one I like just because it's satisfying. You push it down and it clicks. The mechanism doesn't sound as nice. This one has a smoother mechanism, which you can't do on the desk. So it's a little quieter. It glides nicely. This one, yeah. Right now we got truck noises in the background, but yeah, the mechanism on this is also pretty smooth and quiet. So yeah, seems like a good quality product. So this one is 58.35, I believe. So it's not the super precise, tight-fitting 58.5. But I don't think it really matters. But you saw there's a little bit on the ledge. One of the downsides with like a super tight, precise tamper is that sometimes you can get a suction, like it sucks the coffee puck back up because it's such a tight fit. So with this most tampers are 58.35, and you don't have to worry about that. You just might get a little coffee on the ledge. So yeah, I noticed, I just checked their website, and they don't have a 49 millimeter version of this tamper. They do have other accessories, like they have a tamper like this guy, which is a self-leveling tamper, more traditional style with the handle. I think it's the same, or it's probably slightly different, but it's just, you can get these cheaper. I think there's just a rebranded version of it. Mine doesn't have a logo on it. I've seen them with different brand names on them, but they're basically the same, and they work fine. This one is for my 51 millimeter machine, and it works okay. It does have a little wiggle room. It's like, ideally I'd want it a little tighter. Yeah, it's a little harder to find a precise fitting 51 millimeter tamper for the Europiccola, which is a 51 millimeter machine, or 49 if you got the really older ones, the older ones before year 2000. So what was I gonna say? So this is available in 51, 53, or 58. Mine is 58. I checked my actual amount, and I was right. It was about 93, 94 Canadian total after shipping and everything. It was actually 50 US on Amazon.ca, plus about 8 shipping and about 8 in duties, plus the conversion. It ended up being 66 US, which is about 93, 94 Canadian. But I found out it's also on Amazon.ca, and you would pay less there. So if you're Canadian, then that's probably the better deal. It comes out to 80, I think it was 64 plus 7 shipping, or 7 taxes and 8. So basically ends up being $80 Canadian total. So that's better than 94. So a little better. Still pricey for what it is, but it feels good. It seems to work. I just don't love that it's a little heavy, heavier than it needs to be, and it takes a little effort to push. I want to be lazy in the morning. This thing too, actually. These take a little effort to push. The thing I like about this decent tamper is you don't need to push that hard. And then this one's even easier, but I mean, you're paying $300 for this, and it just kind of builds up pressure, and then it goes pop, with like a force of the spring mechanism that's in there. So that one works a little differently. But if you're looking for something like this, it's well made. They also have ones that have like a double-sided thing, but I noticed it does have that ridge in there where you're gonna get coffee stuck, and I've had double-sided ones where there's distributor on the other end, and I find they're always awkward. Like, there's usually a limited, I haven't tried the Ikape one, so I don't know, but it might be the same idea where you have a limited range in like how deep it can go, and then it's usually like the tamper is useful depending on like if you have it extended the maximum depth, or the distributor part is useful, and it's not like both useful at the same time unless you adjust it every time. So yeah, the double dual use ones, distributor tamper ones, I never really liked, or the few that I've tried I didn't like, but I haven't tried the Ikape one specifically, so it could be different. This one is pretty cool though, and yeah, I don't know how much difference this makes with the pattern on the bottom, but kind of looks cool, and technically, without a puck screen at least, it could help with the water distribution, so that could be a benefit.